Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and Texas Tech is off this week. Midway through the year, the Red Raiders are 5-1 overall, 3-0 in the Big 12, and riding a 4-game winning streak. So things are looking up in Raiderland. And that being said, Texas Tech has, just like a lot of schools out there, a lot of programs, have had a lot of injuries to some key contributors. So a lot of the questions this week are centering around the team, projecting the future, and then the status of some of those guys who have been injured. So let's dive into those questions. First one comes from MMTTU, who wants to know how, speaking of injuries, how some of the guys who have been out, what they're doing this week. Well, Amir Washington, who was out for undisclosed non-football related issue, it was back practicing this week. So that's good. That's one outside linebacker. Another outside linebacker, Isaac Smith, who missed last week. He was back practicing. Joseph Plunk, reserve safety, veteran, guy they count on. He missed last week. He's been back practicing. Speaking of safeties, you're starting free safety Chapman Lewis, who missed the second half of Cincinnati and last week against Arizona. He is not quite all the way back practicing, head coach Joe McGuire said, but he has been running. He had a hamstring injury, so that's good to hear. He's at least back running. The Red Raiders, like I said, they're off this week. They don't play till the following Saturday, and they're at home against Baylor. That's a 3 p.m. kickoff, by the way. I think that's on ESPN too. They've had some significant injuries, but getting these guys back, at Charles Esters, who played last week, I think he had 3 tackles, the outside linebacker. Offensive lineman being healthy. Braylon Luck's returning and playing well. And as far as I know, his status is he'll play against Baylor. Those are huge additions. Guys who have missed a lot of time, but played well. So that depth is really helping the Red Raiders, and it looks like they're not going to be full strength, and we'll get into that later, for the rest of the year. But because there's some, significant contributors who are out for the season, but they're at least getting healthier. They're utilizing this off week, so see if they can keep that winning streak going. Next question comes from Texas Tech Austin, who says he's not saying this is going to happen, and there's a lot of season left, but with the way Tech is winning these close games, it kind of feels like TCU's run a couple years ago. Is there a correlation between that TCU team and this Tech team, as in personnel and schedule? I don't think so with schedule, just off the top of my head. And then with personnel, one way they're alike is they're both spearheaded by, TCU is spearheaded by a very good quarterback, and Texas Tech is spearheaded by an elite running back. So in that way, they're similar. I mean, every good team's going to have good skill position players for, more than likely, at least one, stud. Barry Morton's been very efficient. He hadn't turned the ball over. I think TCU was pretty good in that regard as well. So that's how they're alike. But yeah, as of right now, I don't remember exactly their defense and how it correlates to Texas Tech and all that. But I think we're a long way away from thinking about Texas Tech making a run to the national championship game. But the goal is to get to the Big 12 championship and, of course, go from there. They are 3-0, and as it stands right now, that'll be different after this upcoming Saturday. But they are 3-0 right now, alone atop the Big 12 standings. So halfway through the year, they have some tough games coming up, but nothing crazy tough. They're all winnable, and they have shown an ability to win close games. So, it starts with Baylor. They can't take the Bears lightly just because they've struggled in several close games. Next question comes from JBrew830, who says, do we have a spot picked out for the national championship trophy after Texas Tech runs the table the rest of the way? Yeah, no. Too many flaws in this team for that. I know you're being sarcastic, but, this has the opportunity to be the best season in quite some time, and which is what I think Tech needed, that breakthrough type season to kind of progress, take the next step, not just win 6 or 7 games, but win more than that, be significant in November. And I think there's a very good chance for that. So, while no, I don't think there's a spot picked out for the championship trophy, I do think, we're in the midst of a very good season for Texas Tech. Riveter K says, against your preseason expectations, in your opinion, how is this season going? Yeah, it's going actually not exactly according to my predictions, but I had Tech going 8-4, and I had Tech going 5-1 in the first half of the season. The difference is I had Texas Tech beating Washington State and losing to Arizona, so they flipped those. But in a lot of ways, I think this is better because they're on a 4-game winning streak. Seems like they've gotten better and better as the season's going on. So, I mean, right now I see this as an 8 or 9 win regular season team. There's so much info that we can't possibly have at this point. Who's going to be injured, what the teams are going to look like a month from now, all that. So many things change, but ESPN has them finishing 8-4 in their football power index. So yeah, that's where I see it, is 8 or 9 wins, and that's what I saw going into the season. I didn't do the name on this guy. Sorry. And inside the Red Raiders subscriber said, "What should Texas Tech be hoping for in terms of conference standing shaking out this week?" He said, "Personally, I'd love to see Kansas State lose to Colorado because they scare them worse than any team in the conference." Yeah, Kansas State. I felt like going in, it was them and Utah as the two best teams, with Oklahoma State there. So Oklahoma State's been a big surprise. The other way. I still believe Kansas State's solid. The big difference to me with Colorado is, so far, Texas Tech has shown its biggest weakness is pass defense. That really is the biggest weakness. It's a balanced offense. You have one of the best running backs in the country and a very efficient quarterback and passing game with nice weapons off of that. So on offense, you feel really good. Your special teams have been spectacular. They've been probably the strength of the team all year. In all facets. I mean, you haven't missed a field goal. You have a lethal kick returner. Your coverage teams have been great. So special teams have been terrific. Punter, Jack Burgess has been good. Defensively, you've actually been pretty good against the run, especially in Big 12 play. Minus the Washington State game, you've been in that. You can't do that. I mean, that happened. But in Big 12 play, Texas Tech's run defense has been very good. Pass defense, for the most part, you struggle to generate a pass rush. You struggle to cover anybody. Like Cincinnati torched you. A lot of teams have torched you through the air. And that's where Colorado is elite. Shedeur Sanders, Hunter, they're a whole receiving core. I mean, it really is the best in the Big 12 in terms of the passing game. Now, the rest of the team, I would take Kansas State. But I'm nervous about that Colorado game. Of course, you don't play Kansas State. So at least you'd have your fate in your hands with Colorado, unlike Kansas State. So, I'm going to go with you and say Colorado. You hope they win that game. He had more to his question. Kansas State and Iowa State, he said, are solid teams along with Utah. He doesn't think BYU and Colorado are for real. I'm not so sure. Again, because of what I said about Colorado and BYU, their quarterback turns the ball over too much. That bothers me. But pretty good defense. I think they're a solid Big 12 team. I don't know if they're the top 3 or 4 Big 12 team, but they've won their games. So up to this point, can they keep it up? We'll see. Iowa State, I'm actually like another solid team. Does it deserve to be a top 15 team? Is it really that great of a team? I'm not sold yet. I'm not saying it's not. I think it's a good, solid team. I'm just not ready to proclaim it the class of the Big 12 as it stands right now. So, what is the best win, I guess, is against Iowa, which is a good win. But that rivalry is kind of weird anyways. It seems like the road team wins all the time. It's just kind of a weird deal. I'm trying to think about the next best win for Iowa State. And, I guess you could say the same for Texas Tech. So, but I would say Arizona is a pretty good win for Texas Tech. So we'll see. I'll say I think Kansas State's legit. I think Utah, if Cam Rising plays, is formidable. Colorado skill position is legit. BYU all around, but got to curb the turnovers. And then Iowa State, yeah, they're there, and then Tech's up there. I mean, that's what I believe. Texas Tech Red Raider Forever says, I keep seeing lots of posts about injuries and guys needing to heal up. With the bye week, are we expected to possibly get any guys back? Yeah, what I already mentioned in the first question. But you also asked, or TT Red Raider Forever also asked, how many guys are out for the season? 4 that I'm aware of right now. I'm not sure what's happened in the last couple of days this week in practice, but 4 guys who have been announced that they're out, and they're good ones. Joseph Adedire, Dylan Spencer, 2 outside linebackers who were expected to play big roles on your defense. Cameron Valdez, who was your second-string running back, has opened the door for these young guys to play. That's still a loss, a veteran guy that you were hoping to spell Taj some. And then Vinny Scurry, who a lot of people consider your best offensive lineman. So he's hoping to get a medical redshirt and come back next year, so that'd be good. But those are the 4 guys that I'm aware of who are out for the season as it stands today. Joey82 says, with Tech now 1 win away from being bowl eligible, what bowl do you project them playing in at the end of the year? Bonus points for giving us the opponent as well. Yeah. Well, 24/7 Sports projected Texas Tech after the win over Arizona to play in the Texas Bowl against Kentucky. And that sounds about right. I mean, I was thinking that actually, right now Tech's on a path to play in the Texas Bowl, which is a great bowl. I mean, they played in LSU, and they played in the Texas Bowl against LSU in Mahomes' final season, and he showed out. Tech lost, but he had a great performance. A couple years ago, Tech beat Ole Miss. I was there for that at the Texas Bowl in Houston, and it was a great performance by the Red Raiders. So that was huge. I think it's a great stage. I think it's a good setting, and I think that Kentucky sounds about right. I don't know. It could be some other SEC school, but that sounds about right as it stands right now. SM8588 says, on the whole, the team is young. Assuming low portal attrition by key contributors at the end of the year, and the team continues this current successful trajectory, what are my thoughts on 2025 expectations and possibilities? He also said, how far is Tech away from having an O-line reminiscent of 2008? Well, those kind of questions go together for me because, well, first off, you're going to lose Taj, and that's a big loss. So these young running backs are going to have to take a huge step forward, or you're going to have to find some veteran guy who's amazing in the transfer portal, and that's going to be difficult. That's going to cost a lot of money. So Barry Morton should return. I think you lose Josh Kelly. I think this is his final year eligibility, but a lot of your receiver core returns. On defense, very young. I think you return a lot of the guys. I think maybe you lose Braylon Lux, but you return the bulk of your defense. Quincy Ledet, I think maybe this is his final year, but you have a lot of young guys up front who've shown promise. So, yeah, and then that takes me to the offensive line, and this I've always said since McGuire and then James Blanchard, this staff, the way they've been recruiting, they've done a good job of recruiting a lot of quality offensive linemen, but it doesn't happen overnight. So I've pointed to 2025 for a couple of years now as when we might actually really see that youth step up and be served on the offensive line. And you'll lose Caleb Rogers. It's been here forever. I can't remember. Maybe some of the maybe Sterling Porche, maybe 1 or 2 other guys who are in the 2 deep or starting. But you do have some young guys you like. The Dylan Shaws, the Caden Carrs, I'm going to leave some people out, but there are some young offensive linemen you really like, Jacob Ponton, who just need to develop, get bigger, get stronger, catch up to the speed of the game from high school. I think offensive line's one of the most difficult to just jump in there and play early. So how close is it to 2008? I don't think it's going to be that close. That was an elite offensive lineman. You had future All-Pro guys and All-Americans, and it was one of the things. It was a huge offensive lineman. I don't remember what it averaged, but it was something like 6'5", 315. That was the average for the offensive line. 6'6", 3'5". It was. I feel like without knowing the number for sure, but I just remember it being wow, that's just a huge college. I mean, huge NFL offensive line, but definitely college in 2008, and they were good though. They weren't just big; they were obviously really good. So that's going to be hard to replicate. And that might, if that ever happens, it might be a couple of years. When those guys really come together and get older, these young guys you recruited, and how possible is that even in this era? Where guys wait around and be patient. So we'll have to see. But I do like the core group. These young dudes. I heard Clay McGuire talk about, Joe McGuire talk about these young offensive linemen coming up. They really like them. So 2025, I think, is when we'll first start really seeing some of those young guys recruited by this current staff step in and make an impact on the offensive line. I do think it will improve, but I think maybe 2026, when those guys are like veterans, is when we start seeing get close, maybe, to the 2018 or offensive line. Final question comes from Tech Freak. It says, do other schools extend coach contracts as quickly as Tech does, or is this standard operating procedure? Now, yeah, it does. I almost roll my eyes because a coach comes in, has one good year, and they get extended like 3 years. And Graham McCaslin, who did a great job, and looks like he's here for the long haul. Did a very good job with Texas Tech last year, and they locked him up and for an extension here recently. And that's not a bad thing. So I'm not really rolling my eyes at that. It's just, I know what you mean, Tech Freak, by that question. And the truth is, it's not like Tech's alone in that. Now, Tech might pull the trigger a little bit quicker, or maybe it just feels like that because we're closer to it. But one of the things I saw that was interesting when people were talking about all the expenses of running a college football program or college athletic program is just how much dead money there's been that college is still owing. Again, remembering numbers is not my strong suit. I was told there'd be no math. But anyways, yeah, I remember it was an astronomical number in terms of national, like how much colleges owed coaches just in dead money. And so it's not just Texas Tech doing it, is my point. That is a thing. It's really out of control. And coaching contracts have been out of control for a while, but that's the market. And if people are willing to pay these coaches that, then good for them, But I don't know how sustainable all this, like, where is all this money going to come from every year? Like, when does the bill really come due? And that's it, and I think the dead money in these contracts is at least a noticeable portion of the pie of that whole thing. So yeah, Tech's not alone, but great question, especially for an off week. Like I said, Red Raiders, as I think many of you watching this know, 5-1 overall, 3-0 in the Big 12, riding a 4-game winning streak. Off this week, chance to get healthy, which we just talked about, several of the guys. And then they host Baylor next Saturday, 3 p.m. Central Time. I don't care what Baylor's record is. That's a big game for Texas Tech to keep the momentum going. Obviously, the in-state rivalry, the familiarity between the coaching staffs, and all of those things. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.